You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, joined by Ole Miss legend Bill Flowers. And we're going to talk a little bit about the South Carolina game that absolutely has to be at the top of everybody's opinion moving forward. But before we get into that, we will take a couple of minutes and talk about how bad the offense came out and looked against Kentucky real quick.
Well, let's just say this was very reminiscent of the Alabama game. Complete debacle of Kiffin having a terrible play calling game. We all know that Jackson Dart has the ability to throw the ball anywhere he needs to throw. Looking at this game, I was there. They just did not put the players in position over the middle of the field. It wasn't Jackson Dart's fault. It was the coaching's fault. This was 100% Kiffin and play calling. Jackson Dart got some unfair criticism from me last year because of just not going over the middle of the field. But they absolutely 100% did not put their players in the middle of the field. And it goes all on them. I thought our defense played really well, considering, yes, you had some aggressive calls that, could have gone either way. Maybe you had some calls that were on us, but again, you hold them to 20 points. It is absolutely unacceptable for us to not be able to win a game when you hold offense at 20 points. So I give 100% fault to Kiffin and offensive coordinator.
Well, the question becomes, whenever you played at Ole Miss under Cutcliffe and all that, and let's say in 2003, whenever Ole Miss lost to Memphis, you went up to Memphis and lost that game. What was practice like the next week?
In 2003, you have an older crowd, just like you have an older crowd with this team. But again, you've got guys that it's one thing to say, hey, I'm in the trench with you, but I've also been here for 3 years together. We have blood, sweat, and tears, and we've got one goal together, and that we've been going after. But now you're putting guys that haven't put that blood and sweat and tears in the foxhole with you. So you would hope to think that you're going to have guys that are going to fight together, that even though they haven't been at Ole Miss, they've been mature enough and around long enough that they know what needs to be done. You think, I think Saban said that, it all comes down to your acquisitions. Just, you have to have an acquisition of a guy that's got great talent, but also a guy that's mature and a guy that's able to withstand real adversity. And I'm just absolutely dumbfounded at how bad the play calling was. And and that's where it becomes really disheartening as a player when you realize that it's the coaching that's bad. It's, as a receiver, there were plenty of times where I was like, dang it, what's going on? Why don't we see this certain aspect? Why aren't these plays getting called? And that was the entire game last week. And so as a player, you just hope that, just like last year against LSU, whatever reason Lane Kiffin decided to actually take control of the reins against LSU, because everybody will admit it was a completely different ball game, play calling and everything against LSU than it was against Alabama. So that's where you really wonder, when Jackson Dart said, I wish they would have made changes earlier, adapted earlier. They never adapted. So that wasn't the case. But that just shows you that the morale is pretty low regarding your coaching staff. because the players can only do so much.
Well, Ole Miss goes into South Carolina and Columbia, and that place is going to be a cauldron. I've had South Carolina fans in my mentions and my comments for 8 months about Juice Wells. They are really hot to this day about Juice Wells leaving South Carolina. They've sold out that stadium. It's going to be a garnet out. South Carolina is going to have a ton of energy. You mentioned the Auburn game in 2003 is one that really stands out. I'm sure there's a Tiger Stadium game on that list as well that stands out to you.
I mean,
listen, what is it going to be like?
That's a fantastic environment to play in. When you have a team that, if they win 8 wins, if they win 8 games, they're pretty excited. But they fill out that stadium every week. They are the most loyal fans. And when you're a underdog and you think that you have the ability to knock off a top tier team and to really boost your program, believe me, they're going to bring everything they got, the players and the fans. So Ole Miss they're the wounded animal right now, and no one really knows how good they are. And South Carolina is wanting to get their flesh. They're either sitting there going, holy crap, we're either going to have to a sleeping giant just got woke up from last week, or they're not as good as everybody thought they were, and it's just kind of a regular Lane Kiffin team.
All right, when we come back, we are going to talk a little bit more about the South Carolina game. We're going to be talking a little bit about the rest of the season. But first, I do want to let you know, Game Time is your place to get Ole Miss tickets. They have killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee. They take the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets. There's not a bad seat in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, but Game Time makes it to where you can see exactly what the view will be from that seat in the stadium before you buy the ticket. They have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation, job loss protection, all that customer service stuff that you want to see. So take the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets with Game Time. And with this being the most anticipated season in Ole Miss history, I might be able to help you out with tickets as well. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season off with a big return on FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. You can place a bet on anything. If you want to bet on which side of Ole Miss being a 9.5-point favorite over South Carolina for Saturday's game, you can do that. If the over-under is more your speed, like right now, I think the over-under is like 52.5. Ole Miss would have gone over that almost by themselves earlier on in the season. Maybe that's something you think about. If you have a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So that's FanDuel.com. All right, Bill. All right. I come back from reading my script, and you got the shades on and all of that. So you got some nice weather down there in Alabama. And were you aware, Bill, that Ryan Williams at Alabama is 17 years old?
Yeah, I kind of heard that a couple times.
That is quickly turning into the new John Rice Plumlee plays the piano, him being 17 years old, or Josh Dobbs builds rocket ships. That is what's happening there.
The kid's an amazing talent.
Oh my goodness, he's so good.
It's it's fun to watch. These some of these young kids be able to do the things that they really want to do and on the field, and it's already in slow motion. And but I was talking about that corner to be a true freshman on an island. The game's gonna end. Win or lose, but on your island, and for him to come up big like that is huge. To think of a true freshman doing that I don't think people can really appreciate how much pressure that is on a corner, especially a true freshman.
Well, This South Carolina game, it's really interesting because I think Ole Miss fans realize what's going on. If they, for the goals that they had set before the season, what's going on now is this South Carolina game is absolutely as close to a must-win as you can be without mathematically being a must-win. I mean, it is right there. Like if Ole Miss lost to South Carolina, they'd still mathematically be in the chase, but it's over at that point realistically.
Well,
So,
not only for the season, but this program will unravel before your eyes, and you'll see Lane pick up his ball and go home somewhere else. I'm thinking because the players, how much money are. I mean, everybody's all in this year. Everybody and their mom has gone all in on the collective. You don't win this game. It's everybody coming back next year with the same amount of enthusiasm and the same amount of confidence that, hey, you know what? I'm going to put my money in the collective. And if you don't get that money in the collective, then the players that you want will not come. And that's a bad combination. So, but
if they win, they can still do everything they want to do. It's amazing.
100%. 100%. And so, but that's sort of what baffles me about Kiffin is that, like, why would you have a play call, have such a bad game of play calling that you even put your team in that kind of position? Like, that's what just blows my mind. And it's just and I don't think people realize, like, if he comes out tomorrow, like, I can promise you this: South Carolina runs a defense. I don't know if their defense is similar to Kentucky's, but I can promise you this: if it's not, they're going to do very similar things that Kentucky did, because it's the same thing Alabama did. Whatever they did, obviously spying Dart, not letting him, run, safety in the, whatever they're doing. Carolina is going to do very much of a similar thing. And so you've got that. So you've got a blueprint of what you can do. But then you have a very hostile environment. And you've got a team that sees a wounded animal. So to go into Carolina and to win that game, if Kiffin is not putting the players in the right position to win, that's a very difficult place to win.
Well, we have a situation, like I said, if Ole Miss goes into that game, wins that game, everything's not necessarily fine, but you're at the point where it's amazing the variance between winning and losing after this next week. It is absolutely nuts. The margin for error for Ole Miss has completely been removed,
and that is completely predicated on last week's loss. Mm-hmm. So it's not the sky is falling mentality. It's the reality of what's at stake. You're talking about, okay, at South Carolina, if you had a hard time, if you could not beat Kentucky, but Kentucky got whacked by South Carolina. You're going to South Carolina.
The score they did, but that was a weird game. South Carolina had 200 yards of offense.
Well, Kiffin should be able to put at least 40 points up on South Carolina. And you would think that. And I just hope that they're able to come back. I mean, but yeah, if they win at South Carolina, then you're going to Baton Rouge, play LSU on the road. So, I think that, and I've said it from the beginning, Ole Miss is like, these kids, there's enough talent on there for them to win out the entire season. Just people can say whatever they want to say, but I'm telling you, you can mark my words on it, Ole Miss has the ability to win the national championship. They can beat Georgia. they can beat LSU. They can beat every team, 100%. But it's going to take Kiffin to actually call plays, make sure that he's taking responsibility, he's doing his part, because it all comes down to him. At the end of the day, you're the head coach. Hugh Freeze right now, I have a lot of respect for him as a coach, and I mean, if there's one guy that Saban feared, was Hugh Freeze. And at the end of the day, Auburn, if they had Ward down at Miami, they would be undefeated right now. But at the end of the day, whose fault is it? Whose fault that they stayed with Peyton Thorne? It's nobody else's fault but Hugh Freeze. So even though Hugh Freeze is a great head coach, the blame comes to him. Kiffin is the one that needs to take responsibility and start taking on more of the responsibility of, because whoever called those plays at Kentucky and Alabama last year sucks.
Apparently they're in a bunker mentality, though. I talked to Brad Logan a little bit today, and Kiffin, they've completely shut everything down. It's completely bunkered, circled the wagon. So at least they're doing the things that they need to be doing, and we'll see this weekend exactly what it looks like.
And I have been 100% excited about how Kiffin has been throwing the middle of the field, doing everything. Like, I have been totally sold out for how they've been calling plays up to the Kentucky game, and to completely go away from what was working. The first drive, you hit a curl route to extend to be the supplication of your run game. That worked, and they never went back to it. They
only ran the ball 3 times in the first half. I don't think we can say the run game got suffocated.
No. I'm saying the supplication of a run game. Of being able to, we've all said it, you don't have a pounder back. So you're going to take your inside receivers and you're going to utilize the short, quick passes inside to be able to pull the linebackers out, to be able to open up more of a run game for your smaller backs.
Pass to run.
And you saw what happened the first drive. They did that. They threw the ball. They stacked the box. They threw the ball to an inside receiver, and you continue to move the drive, move the chains, and then you go. And so, why we didn't continue to do that, I have no idea. But I am 100% a Kiffin fan when he's calling the plays. When he's not calling the plays, I get really frustrated for the players.
Thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Bill Flowers joining the show every week like he always does. Bill, thank you so much, bud. What do you got going on this weekend?
I'm going to be sitting at the house with the kids, watching Ole Miss beat South Carolina 2:30, and probably watching a little bit of that Auburn game.
All right. Take care, Bill. We'll talk to you next week, bud.
Sir, thank you.